Smell this. Do some ASMR. Say my name is Oliver. I'm a microphone doodle, and this is my podcast.
So, should we do an intro and like wave to people and say hi?
I guess it doesn't necessarily have to have a name.
Okay.
We're back.
Go for it.
Is this thing on?
Yeah. So what did you think of our last podcast together?
You know, I think it was good. I think we knew each other pretty well. Don't you think?
I think so. What was it like being on camera with me?
I think so. We've heard some feedback that it looks like I was kind of dragged into it.
You're having a rough day.
Yeah, I'm kind of along for the ride a lot of times with some of your ideas. You're on the ride with my ideas? Which ones?
Well, for example, it's got to be 63 degrees at night with the windows open and all the fans in the room on. I just ride that wave every single night.
Yeah, and do you or do you not get better sleep?
I don't know.
Michael used to stay up till 3 a.m. every night.
Yeah, like when I was in LA and I didn't totally have a job, I was, but you know, they say that, from an evolutionary standpoint, you need people who stay up late and then you need people who get up early because somebody's on watch at all times.
Yeah, there's evolutionarily that also addresses the gays.
Let's talk about our first date.
Okay.
Yeah?
Today we're going to talk about...
Do you remember our first date?
I do. Do you remember our first date?
Parts of it.
The only parts?
Well, yeah, it was a long time ago. We've been together now...
It'll be 6 years in June.
6 years in June. And
we were talking about it the other day. Decided to throw Canyon County Pride on our anniversary. Kind of...
Yeah.
Unintentionally. But it's kind of perfect.
Yeah. Our anniversary is June 8th.
Yeah, the day we met. It's kind of the day, like the day we met was kind of like when we started dating. We weren't like, hey, we should date. We were just like dating when we met.
Yeah, it's true. We moved really quickly, but it was just right. I was waiting a long time to find the right boy, and you came along, and I was like, yep, that's it. June 8th. So I remember our first anniversary after we started the business. I wanted to throw a backyard concert, and you were like, this is...
Oh, so fucking mad.
You were so mad at me for throwing a work event. And now, every year on our anniversary, we're throwing Canyon County Pride.
That's not really work, though. I think the issue I had was that we, especially at that time, very early on, we spent majority of our relationship as business partners.
I think, yeah,
we have different viewpoints on that. And I definitely feel like we spent a lot of time as business partners. And so to be like, oh, that's our anniversary. Oh, I'm throwing a party.
Yeah.
For all of our clients, and we have to call all of our clients, and like it doesn't end.
Yeah.
It's all about work and our clients.
I especially when we got into the business, I was always been a little bit workaholic.
You're like all in or all out?
I'm all in or all out. So, in remembering our first date, do you remember what your first thoughts are when you saw me?
Well, it's always so funny because we actually, before we met, we saw each other.
It was Pride in LA.
It was Pride in LA.
I think it was 2019, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I had gone to LA, West Hollywood specifically, years prior during this time, just kind of like the gay mecca, and ran around West Hollywood.
Yeah.
And had gotten invited to an event one evening, some private Cadillac event.
Yeah, it was a Cadillac party for Pride.
Which, Cadillac, are you still doing DEI? Because they probably aren't throwing that party. Anyway, we met at a Cadillac party. Well, we saw each other, and I was with some friends running around, and I remember in the sea of all of the boys in LA, I remember seeing Michael standing against the wall, like, doing what you do. Keeping a peripheral.
Yeah, I do like to stand in the back and have the wall in my back.
Scanning, just assessing all of the all of the options available.
I was assessing all the
As one does when
If you could imitate me, what would it look like?
Well, you just were like, you know, standing against the wall, like very, I'm the boss, you come to me.
So what was your initial thought of me?
It worked.
And do you want to share, like, maybe what you thought when you saw me?
Well, I thought you were very attractive.
Oh, thank you.
I thought for sure you probably had a partner.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, the perception of things was like, yeah, I was like, that's a hot guy. And he was very sweet. I do have very much a type.
Do you think I have a type?
I think you have, like, yeah, kind of, but like I very much have a type.
Yeah, you do. You got daddy fever.
Just like
Daddy fever.
older,
Yeah.
tall, dark features, large chest.
I remember I had gone out that night with a friend of mine, and I was definitely on the hunt. I was like, what's out there for me tonight? And then we were making eyes across the room. Do you remember that? You were giving me a little bit of like a side shoulder back action, kind of like this. Do you remember that?
Not specifically.
Yeah, that's what happened. and you know, I was just kind of sussing out the night, kind of seeing where things were gonna go. But I definitely had my eyes on you, and then as I started to like venture off from my little perch in the corner, I was looking for you and you disappeared. Yep.
So what is that? I mean, was that like a regular thing? Like you'd go out on the weekends and just kind of see what was on the hunt, or did you not hunt that frequently?
That was like all that it's about in West Hollywood. Like,
But you lived there for 10 years.
That's all it was. Like,
So is that what you did for 10 years or something?
Yeah. That's what I did. Every weekend we would go out. And we would just like, it's just part about being a gay man. It's about probably being like a man in general. It's just like an element of out there being on the hunt. Every weekend. Yeah. Not every weekend, but most.
I feel like I maybe do remember your sidekick, Kevin.
Yeah. Yeah.
Shout out to Kevin.
And then I do. So I went home alone that night, and then the next day I got invited.
But there weren't other options?
I don't know. You know, I'm picky.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the reason I went home that night, I think my phone, I had broken my phone that day or something. Sounds right. Or something. Or something to the effect of like, the folks I was with were doing all kinds of legal things that I didn't really partake in that kept them up all hours of the night. And I was like, okay girl, it's getting late. You know, I've always kind of been like that. You know, I've never really been the type to like be out crazy at the club till 5 a.m.
You're not a party girl.
No, so I was like, okay, this is fun. I had my, you know, a few drinks. This is a good time. I'm going home.
Yeah.
So, and then who knows when the rest of the group returned. It was actually Nick Tamina's place.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember you were couch surfing. You had just gotten your wisdom teeth out. You had this flight voucher that was going to expire. And this is very like, this is
So
indicative of who Tommy is. Like, we have to eat all the food in the fridge before we go shop for new stuff. If there's a coupon, we have to use it. He's very frugal, which I appreciate. You and I are very different that way.
Oh my God, when I met Michael, this was just so hard for me. I mean, paper towel, plastic bag, paper towel. And I'm just like, oh, everything. And I slowly had to wean you off of plastic bags.
Yeah.
And we still have paper towels, but the bamboo ones, which are a little bit more eco-friendly. But that's just what you need. You know?
I really deeply appreciate that about you, that you are eco-friendly. And I've gotten on board, and I'm like, okay, cool, let's do this. You know?
Like, if you come to our house now, we have a glass recycle. We used to do a variety of types of recycle.
A little compost
machine. As in me.
Yeah.
A compost machine, like, yeah. And I just think I come from a lineage of farmers, and so that's how we do things. Yeah. Gotta recycle. Yeah. And so, yeah, it was couch surfing.
So we made eyes the night before, and then both of us went home on our little ways. And then the next day, my friend friends invited me to a party, which typically turns into like sort of a little bit of a rager, fun night out for the boys, and but during the day it's like just kind of a cool little cabana pool party. And I got there, and I remember seeing you from across the pool, and I told my friend, I was like, that's the one I want. And I walked right over to you, and you were booking a ticket to go to a rave.
But you were with Ty?
Yeah, it was Ty. You remember Ty?
Oh my god, I fucking love Ty.
Yeah, Ty. I know.
I love Ty.
Me too.
Hi, Ty.
Hi, Ty. He probably doesn't want to get dragged into this. But
You'd be a great guest, though.
So, I walked up to you. You were booking a rave because all of your friends were going to this like Mayan after party thing, and you were like, whatever, I guess that's what I'm doing. And as you were booking it, I walked up, the app crashed, and the first thing we talked about is like meditation. And you and I remember this very specifically, it's fundamental moment, is that you and I, like, the boys were all around us in their Speedos, dancing, drinking, partying along, and you and I made our way to like a little cabana, and I just remember the whole party kind of disappeared. And
Do you remember we were having tacos?
At that party?
Yeah, you remember we had gotten food?
I don't remember that at all.
Yeah, no, so that's I was, as a couch surfing gay in West Hollywood.
Yeah.
Making that decision of like, well, they're all going to this event, and if I don't go, it's kind of awkward that I'm staying at their place, and you know, so I was like, I guess I'm gonna go do this, which I didn't. Again, not really my vibe. It's not really my vibe to like another club. I can get into it, but it's,
I know,
especially at that time being like younger and single, I was out to have a good time, but I wasn't like unhinged.
But I knew that about you, like even from the beginning. Like you've always had a wholesome vibe. You have like a really bright aura. You can tell how sweet you are. Even like when people first meet you now, you just like radiate sweetness. And like being in LA for 10 years, that is not easy to
People find that and they suck it out of you.
Yeah, they suck
you
it out
gotta
of you.
protect your energy.
Yeah, and you've always been good about protecting your energy.
It's a practice.
Yeah.
Thanks, babe.
Yeah, a little too much sometimes.
I will prioritize. Yeah, I mean, you have to. So, if I want to show up for my like best self, I have to do it. But anyway, I was like, yeah, what should I do? And I was like, oh, whatever, I'll book this ticket. I'm like, booking the ticket, and then I like put all my credit card information in, and click submit, and it was like loading, and I was like, okay, you know, it's non-refundable because it's that evening. It was not cheap because none of these things are cheap. And then Michael introduced himself and was like, hey. And I was like, hey. And the website crashed. So it was just synchronistic in that way. Because I was like, okay, cool, maybe I have plans now. Like maybe I don't have to go to this rave. You know, my friends still to this day, but definitely more so at that point, would be like, always give me a hard time because I go to a club and just like want to find love.
Get married.
Yeah, like just couple up, you know. I am such a romantic in that way. And so my friends would be like, you gotta chill. Like that's not how this works. And it's like kind of a gay curse a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, so then you're like, hey.
We spent several hours talking, and then
But I have to say, before that, so we're kind of chatting, and this is still very you, because you're like, or I was kind of talking about like what I was gonna do. You're like, well, what are you doing tonight? And I was like, oh, I don't have any plans. And Michael's like, oh, well, you could go do this. You could go to that part. This is a great spot. You could go do that. You could do this. And I was like, or you could take me on a date.
Then I did.
Do you remember that?
I do remember that, yeah.
And I think what's funny about and why that encapsulates like how you are still is like you still would be like, you should go do like what you do. Like you know, we have an age gap.
Yeah.
So I think there's an element of you feeling like go do like all the things I could do. But I have an older soul, so I was like, I think maybe you thought that I would want to like go do the, you know, but I just wanted to go on a date. So
my approach to everything usually, especially in the hunting atmosphere, is to just like lay bait and then let them like see if they wander into it.
And tell me more about laying bait.
Just like we had a great conversation, like I knew that there was vibes, I knew you and like we're interested, I was interested as well. And I was gonna give you options and let you make the decision. And I totally took you out to dinner that night. We had a really magical night. We went and got dinner, talked about having babies, and then like if you just wanna make the shorty Troy story? There's an birthday. And fast forward, we basically spent 2 weeks together after that watching Drag Race, RuPaul's Drag Race, and eating pizza in my apartment, and it was one of the most magical times of our lives.
It was. We went out, so once we had our little chat, and like so often in those settings, it's like, sup, you know, and it's just like, yeah, and you're like it's so surface level,
yeah,
and so especially there, and we had like really great conversation, and
did anything like unexpected happen? Like we were like kind of surprised by anything that night?
Well, I don't think that I was expecting that you would be like genuine and like nice and like my expectation was like, okay, this man's cute and it checks all like my boxes and like let's go on a date. And I kind of thought, you know, waking up the next day, I'm like, okay, yeah, I have to tame my tendencies of being like, so what are you doing now? Like,
yeah,
like I didn't get kicked out right after the deed was done, so I was like, you know, which is so funny because now that you know me, it's like I was ready to like, you know, make a family like right at that moment, but I had to like check myself.
Yeah, I wasn't not ready for that either. I was a little bit of a different place because like, you know, I had spent 8 or 9 years as like a single bachelor in a studio or a single bedroom apartment there. Like I had a lot of things that were just like very set in my ways. So like the fact that you were long distance was actually really good in the beginning because it allowed us time to kind of get to know each other.
Yeah, it was, but I was just maybe not expecting that it would be more than just like a fun date. And then the next day, you're like, oh, so my friend's doing this thing. Do you want to come with? And I was like, yeah. And then I think I had like a fight the next day, and you're like, well, what if you just stayed? And I was like, yeah. The beauties of being in real estate. I was doing real estate back home in Minneapolis at that point, so I was like, I don't gotta be home. And that's when we stayed together for like 2 weeks until you were like crawling, like scratching your eyes out, like I don't think I could do this.
Yeah, I needed a little bit of space, but that's so true of our relationship now, and you also need that as well. But I think, you know, what was unexpected for me was that, you know, I had met a lot of cute boys in my time there, dated some very cute guys, but like you were so real. Just like, I was like, oh, we laughed a lot. Like we totally always had a really good time together. Yeah. And like, I was just like, this feels like a friendship and a lover, and it was like, I was very grateful for that. I think timing really worked in our favor. Like a lot of the stars aligned for us at that time. Yeah, because then like COVID hit, and just like I wonder if COVID wouldn't have happened, how things would be different. Because Michael's living in LA, I was living in Minneapolis, and like I didn't necessarily want to live in Minneapolis forever. Like I didn't love the winters there, and was ready to like do something different. But I just wonder if that circumstance of COVID hadn't have happened, like what would have the trajectory of everything. Like, because you kind of, I feel like COVID forced you to really reconsider career, because your career was like the first thing to get chopped, which was just like entertainment. And it's been that way ever since then. I'm so lucky that we switched. So, but going back to our first date, and you remember, because we spent what, like 3 or 4 days together, right? Like you extended your stay. When you were flying home after that, like weekend, date weekend that we had, do you remember what you felt? Well, I was just like madly in love, like totally infatuated. You know, it's like that. What's the hormone that's released when you're in that part of the love phase? Tryptophan? Like oxytocin. Oxytocin, okay. I don't know, like you're just in that place of like complete infatuation, and we were like talking all the time and texting and FaceTiming. Michael used to send me these long romantic poems in the middle of the night that I would wake up to. I mean, it was just like we were very like we weren't playing it cool. Like I felt like with
other like relationships or like kind of sometimes when you're in that scene, is there like you gotta like, you know, keep your guard up and not be vulnerable. And we were both like just like.
Is there any particular moment from our first date that stands out to you?
Well, I remember our first kiss, which was very cute. We were gonna leave that party. We were kind of like at this pool party, and it was like, well, what should we do? And it's like, well, let's go to dinner. And obviously, since you live there, you're like, let's go to this place. And we shared an Uber to leave the Hollywood Hills, and I think you got out first.
Okay.
And you gave me a smooch before you left. And then went to dinner. If we could change one thing about our first date, what would it be?
If we could change one thing about our first date, I don't know. You know, that's a really hard question. I'm such a big fan and a believer of like everything happens the way that it was supposed to. But I will say that like when we first got together, I was still drinking. I'm sober now, and that was like the last year of my drinking was when we first got together. And so there are like moments that you know I don't totally remember. And also I am like, you know, I'm grateful because it was all supposed to happen the way that it was supposed to. But if like, I don't know, maybe if I had gotten sober, I wouldn't have gone to that party, you know? And so it's like kind of hard to say that.
That's so true. I think it was, I mean, I'm grateful that we had that time because like, you know, I do think I have more understanding now than or just in general than I would have if I was like, oh, I'm sober, you know. So I do think that it all does happen as it's supposed to, and it was.
Did you know that like drinking was a problem for me right away, or how long did it take you to realize that?
So
my smile got dark.
Well, I just remember like, because so for that first year, like leading up to COVID, like so we met in June of 2019, and it was like. You know, I'd stay for a little while and I'd go home for a little while, and like so that was a good kind of cadence, and it wasn't super planned, but every time I did come to you, it was kind of like for me a little bit of like being on vacation or like you know. So I remember we'd like have wine, and you know we'd have maybe the first night we'd have like a good time, and then the next day I'd be like, okay, cool, like, and we would. You know, you'd be like, let's have another wine, and you know, so you could go for like, where I would be like, okay, I kind of have my,
But you've always been able to go hard. You just don't go hard multiple days in a row.
Yeah, like if I'm definitely social, but like a social drinker, and so I was like, okay, cool, this is fun. You know, we're in LA, and then like once I've had my like weekend or whatever, then I'm like, okay, cool, I need to get back into my like routine of some sort. And for us at that time, you're just like, well, there's nothing. So that's when I kind of was like, but maybe that was like the LA lifestyle, like your line of work allowed you that flexibility, and mine kind of did as well, being in real estate.
But when did you like first realize that I had a drinking problem?
I mean, there were a few times where it was like, intense. I mean, I guess I would say kind of following up on some of those like stays, there'd be times where I could tell like you've been drinking or
You know, I think there's so many things about our relationship that were just like, you know, timing and at the right place at the right time. You would come for 2 weeks at a time, and he would come and visit me, and I just remember like I would love when he would come to visit me because I had this couch in the living room, and like I'd go into the kitchen, which was behind the couch, and like I'd be doing my thing, and I'd walk out to the couch, and I'd look at him, and he'd be waiting for me to come around from the kitchen, and he'd go and just like
physical touch is my number one love language.
Wanna like swallow me whole, which was just so loving and so sweet because I didn't totally experience that as a child. But you know, there was so much tenderness and sweetness, but like the semantics of like sharing a bathroom and like where we put our clothes, and you love it freezing at night, and and I like to stay up late, and I like light on, and so just like getting to know each other was like interesting.
Yeah, but I think the container of time for us being in 2 different locations was helpful, because I think you would get to, like, I was like, I'm out, like, what's wrong? You know, like I didn't necessarily like realize that how much of a obstacle that was, of that, just having me in your space, because I'm just like, yeah, so, you know, I'm deterred by that. Having 2 weeks on, or however long was definitely useful.
So after the first time that we got together and you flew home, did you have any reservations?
I'm not necessarily. I mean, I think I still say this today, and I said this in, or kind of alluded to this in the episode we did for XOXO Boise. It's like, as long as I have a loving partner who, you know, is a loving partner, I don't care. I could, like, you know, we've had challenging moments in business, financially, and it's like, if it's me, you, and Oliver, like, I don't need anything else. And when I said in our XOXO Boise episode of like, you can't trust somebody you've not been broke with, which is a sizzle line, it's very true. Like, it wasn't like I had any intentions in when I met you that was because of anything other than who you are, you know? That's so true. So when you take me on nice trips and things, I enjoy it, and I never expect it, and it's never, you know, I think people could think, oh, like, you're a sugar daddy, and it's like, actually, we were both poor when we met. When we met, like, I don't think if I would have met you online through your Instagram that I would have ever dated you.
Why is that?
Just like,
why not?
It's so funny. Like, we have friends here in Boise, you know, wholesome old Boise. And one of the friends will say, Michael, really, you're really getting risque on Instagram. I mean, just a lot of underwear pics, you know, very, you know.
Very body, yada, yada.
Yes. And I
did it for the likes.
Well, and you were successful in it. I mean,
that's right.
Quite a few, like tens of thousands of followers from this.
I had 100,000.
Yeah, and still do.
Yeah, I remember, like, I had 5,000 followers, and Instagram was just kind of starting to pick up. And being in LA, I had a lot of friends that were models, that were friends, that were like quickly gathering followers. And I would look at their accounts, and I would just be kind of like, you're not that special, like, I can do this. And so I would recreate their most liked or popular posts in my living room. And literally, like, for 2 years, every single post came from some type of shot in my living room. And
in some underwear.
Or like nude with like stuff covering.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you ever watched Schitt's Creek, Moira Rose, and she goes like on one of the episodes to try to find naked photos of herself, and she can't find them because nobody saved them. They didn't care. And so she goes up to the front desk girl and she's like, if I have any advice for you, take naked photos now. And I lived that. Like, I'm proud of how I look. You found those photos online and you're like, okay, we have to have those like removed.
Well, we did get the dirty ones removed because it's probably not great for...
I mean, in real estate, you can kind of be like a little risky.
But I just don't know that I would have... We're lucky that we met in person. I think a lot of people meet online.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that. You can totally be successful. I just think we had some good timing, and I'm glad we could meet in person, because when we met each other, we didn't have like these preconceived, like, here's how I present myself online, and same for you. And then you know, because I've done it before, where you like see the socials, you go on a date, and you already have this preconception of like, how they're gonna talk, like all the things.
Yeah.
And so I think we're definitely lucky in that sense. I think we met just. This is probably off topic, but I think societally, we all have to be conscientious of how these free social networks are really actually, I mean, they're powerful AI tools that are designed to require more of our attention. You know, it's like the mice in like the little cage that are become addicted to a game. I mean, that's how it's designed.
Yeah.
You know, you have dopamine release when you touch the app, and when it, you know, it's designed like that. It's a lottery system, so I think you have to be conscientious.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of lucky in the sense that like I don't get super depressed, or sometimes I will say that, but like for the most part, like you'll catch me like scrolling through reels for like 2 hours straight, just laughing like to myself in the living room, which is such a wonderful part of social media.
That is true. It is true.
Okay, so if we were to wrap this all up,
okay,
and we were to go back to our very first date, is there anything that you would say to yourself before you met me?
Buckle up. Pack your bags. Yeah.
Buckle up. Why?
Well, just I mean, it's like a chasm of time. Like we went into a time portal.
Yeah.
I mean, I was just like this single young kid in Minneapolis, like trying to run a little real estate business. I mean, I was selling like just enough to feed myself and travel domestically on a budget. I mean, this was a Spirit Airlines flight voucher that took me to West Hollywood, where I was couch surfing.
You're lucky to have survived that.
Yeah, so like
the Spirit Airlines.
Yeah, the Spirit Airlines and West Hollywood, and the I mean, you look at where our lives are now, and it's just like a totally different realm, but also not something that I wouldn't have envisioned for myself. Like I had this exercise actually before I even went out to West Hollywood, and I had worked with and still work with this amazing lineman coach. Shout out to Nova. And we had this practice where like we wrote out my ideal partner, and I wish I probably have this somewhere, but you're right.
Actually, that's what my sister recommended. I did that maybe like a year or two before I met you. And
I mean, like they were older, they were sober. Like actually mentioned a sober partner. I maybe that's because like my perception of gay relationships was that I had to be like a party queen and living out in West Hollywood to have, you know, a partner that wanted to like stay home and cuddle. Some things don't change.
So to wind it all up, if you were gonna whisper in your ear before you met me, you would say buckle up.
Yeah.
Great.
How about you?
I would say go easy on him. I think that I have really high expectations of myself, and that translates sometimes to high expectations of other people. And I've had to learn how, you've taught me that, like in a really genuine way of like, loving people isn't about them doing what you want them to do or being who you want them to be. Loving someone is like, so, you know, learning to like, not be so hard on myself has allowed me to not be so hard on you. And so like going easy on you has been like a journey.
Yeah, because we really are like opposite in a lot of, not in like a lot of ways in a bad way, but like you're very type A, I'm very not type A. Mm-hmm. You're very detail oriented. I can't remember a detail to save my life.
And I love to spend money.
I like to recycle. So, yeah. Well, it's been a good journey, babe. Should we do another one? Another year.
Another turn around the sun. We've been together 6 years. We can do it another 6. See what happens.
Wow.
Yeah.